Okay. Okay, so this is the tutorial for making asymmetrical weapons. This is actually not a great example because this is a symmetrical weapon. So actually, let's go ahead and let's make a asymmetrical weapon for this robot right here. We'll start with a drum, we'll do something easy, and then we'll make something like a disc. We'll just make it a little bit more complicated, okay? So let me open this up first. Okay. And then let's say we want these impactors here to be asymmetrical. Let's go ahead and, you know what, let's save a copy of this here. So we'll call this, I feel like I didn't spell that right. Okay. So here we go. We have our drum here. I'm just going to quickly make a reference of where the teeth work. So I want to keep this as the same diameter. And then I'm going to cut those teeth off so we can take it from an asymmetrical, or sorry, from a symmetrical to an asymmetrical impactor. So let's just go through all, we'll just cut all that off there. Okay, so now we're just kind of left with the sort of the body of this drum here. So if you're wondering what this little black and white dot right here is, as you can see from the little pop-up there, that is the center of mass. How you insert that into, let me delete this real quick so I can put a new one in. Yeah, so normally you don't have that. What you need to do is you need to go to Insert, and then it's under Reference Geometry, Center of Mass. And that will evaluate your whole part and tell you where the center of mass sits. Now, it's sitting a little over to this side right now, just because this bearing hole is a little lighter, or a little heavier than the motor hole here. That doesn't really matter, because that's not gonna, it's not gonna be spinning clockwise this way. So anyway, enough with that. Let's get on to the actual design here. So let's say we want our tooth to look something like, yeah, that looks good. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a little line here, and I'm going to mirror that. So we will mirror that around this line here. There we go. And then we can add in the lines to kind of close this up. And we can extrude that all the way through our whole drum. So we'll go up to surface here, and boom. So the impactor is made. That's the easy part. Now the more annoying part here is the counterweight. So you can see now, if you look at our center of mass, it is pretty far away from the center where we want it to be, where it's actually going to be kind of spinning on its axis. So with this, you can kind of reference where exactly you want your counterweight to be and how much your counterweight you want to have. So with discs, it's a little more complicated because you kind of have to find the angle that you want to make your counterweight at. For this, we don't really have to worry about that as much because we made this tooth basically straight down, and there's no other geometry to mess with it, and this is symmetrical, so we know that we want our counterweight to be straight up vertical on this other side here. And you'll understand why that's a little bit more complicated when we get into the disc. So I'm going to sketch on here, and then let's just make something that looks like it could be a counterweight. The idea is that we want to make a general assumption of where we'd want our counterweight to be, what we'd want it to look like, and then what we can do is we can kind of guess and check from there. Wow, that really doesn't look vertical, does it? But it is. So let's see, let's go ahead and make this. I'm also realizing just now that if I extrude this, it's probably going to get in the way of some of these. Yeah, it is. Okay. So, yep, important note to keep track of where those things are. Let's do that from here instead then. That way we don't mess with that. And then because these are symmetrical here, I can just make it right on this other side. trim away all the stuff we don't need. Go back to this. So let's look at what exactly that looks like. So we'll extrude this. We will go up to surface again to make it all the way across. There we go. So now we have a counterweight and we have a tooth, and then we'll see how close that gets there. So if you look at that, it got a lot closer. Not maybe as close as we'd want it, but we know now that this here is a good start. Now, the actual shape of it, the geometry is a little goofy looking. This is just an example, so it doesn't really matter how it looks. I would probably personally tweak it just to get a little nicer angles there, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter as long as it's balanced. So what we can do, though, is because we know that this is just slightly too heavy on this side now, what we can do is we can go back into this extrusion. We'll edit that. And then we can just take that down a little bit. So actually, you know what? Probably the easier way to do this is just to offset this a little bit. Let's say like 0.1 centimeters. Oh, that's selecting the whole chain. Nope, don't want to do that. There we go. Okay, we can reverse that. So we're just going to take it down by about 1 millimeter here. And then we can extend that to where we want and trim away all of the excess again. Exit our sketch and recheck our center mass, and then look at that, that got closer again, but now it's on the other side and it's still not quite where we want it. So like I said, this is about where we get into a little bit of kind of guess and check territory, where we just kind of have to keep messing with it until we get something that we like. So what we can also do here is we can actually just Control Z that and take it back to where we had it, and then instead of offsetting that by a full millimeter, what if we just did like 0.5 millimeters instead? We got about right in the middle of that there. So let's see, extend those out again, trim away the excess again, exit our sketch and recheck, and look at that. That is very, very close. So I think it's still a little, I might tweak it a little bit more on this side just to get it a smidge closer. But if you look at that, that's way closer than we were before. I would continue maybe editing this until it's just a smidge closer. It's not that hard, honestly. Maybe 2 or 3 checks is all you normally need to get pretty close. And then from there, anything better than that is just, well, a little better than that. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to go ahead and move on, assuming that you kind of get the idea now. Hide this here. Yeah, you can see that I have a asymmetrical drum for my robot now. So now that we know how to make something kind of simple like that, where it's very nice and symmetrical, let's do something a little bit more annoying. So let's go ahead and look at this. So this is a disc instead of a drum. Now this is a little bit more annoying to balance, especially if you're using 3 spokes instead of 2. So let's go and do that. So I'm going to go and save a copy here and open it. We'll call this like demo disc 2 because I already have a demo disc 1 from showing somebody this. Okay, close the original one, we don't need that. Okay, so what you basically normally start out with, right? Oh, well, I guess, you know what, let me go ahead and make a little reference to where our tooth was again. Just so that we know this, we keep the same radius on there. Okay, so what you normally start out with a disc is kind of here, your center geometry and your outside geometry, and then an idea of kind of how far out you want your disc to be. So let's see, throw both do this. So why is it doing that? Okay, yep, keep everything. Oh, what did I not? I did not cut that. 1 second. Boop. And that should be good now. What? What? Well, that's close. You know what? I'm just gonna do another. I'm gonna do another extrude cut here because I just don't want to go through that. It's being annoying. So this is what you're normally starting with here, kind of. This is just like general centering of where kind of the outside of my disc is going to be, a general idea of where my tooth is going to be, and then my kind of mounting hole here. So this is for, like, say if I'm direct mounting this onto like a 5mm motor shaft there, like that's what this would be. This would be the hole for that, and then this is kind of the meat around that to just kind of make sure that that's not super thin and doesn't break or anything. So first thing we want to do is we want to get our tooth and then our kind of like support spokes here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to make those spokes I was talking about. So we'll do 3 because I said that that was annoying, and it is, so let's learn it. So let's see, how wide do I want these to be? If I reverse that, does that, or sorry, bidirectional, is that enough? It probably is enough, especially if it's something like steel, but let's, just for demonstration purposes, let's make that a little thicker. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so let's go ahead and make this material here real quick, and then kind of cut away the things we don't need before we pattern this. So I'm going to extend this out here. And then I want to trim this. So you can kind of see the geometry I'm making here for the spokes. And then I want to add fillets here because you always want fillets. Do not, I swear, if I see any of you guys with pointy corners like this, do not do it. We're going to do that everywhere. Fillets are your friend. Okay, so from here we kind of have the general shape of our support structure there. So I'm going to clip that away, and what we can do is we can go ahead and do a circular pattern here to make sure everything is evenly spaced. That way you don't have to make these angles yourself, because that is annoying. So let's go and make this 3 here. Okay. And then now we want to close those up so that we can actually extrude them. Just gonna clip away this geometry here that we don't need. And then, am I missing something here? I am. I think I clipped that away earlier. Let's go and fill that back in. There we go. Look at that. Okay. So from here, we can go ahead and extrude those out. We can do up to surface, or I believe this is a 3mm disc. We can do 3mm, whatever you want to do. So there you go. We kind of have the basis of our disc here. You can kind of see that's where you mount the motor. This is where it kind of, you have the outside of your disc, and then this is where your tooth would be. So on that note, let's go ahead and make that. We're going to go and make our tooth. So what I like personally is I like to kind of start from where that center spoke is. I just feel like the material there, as you have this thick bar kind of coming up and merging into the tooth geometry, I just kind of find that I like having that support there for the tooth. It's most definitely not necessary per se, but that's kind of what I like. And then we can add a little rake angle on this as well. Nothing too crazy, I don't think. I don't really need anything crazy. Let's just do that. Yeah, that's not bad. Okay, and then from there, we can kind of use this outer circle here to kind of help us make our tooth. Now, what I kind of like doing is going from, like, say, wherever my tooth would end up. Let's say, like, maybe here. You know what? Let's kind of do the same thing again. Let's kind of go out from the support there, and that'll be our tooth, right? That's kind of the end of the tooth there. So let's go. Oh, it went to the arc thing. Okay, so we go from here, we go and move this over here. You can see eventually that little tangent icon is going to pop up there. So we know that that's tangent with the main disc. And now we can trim that away, and that is a gorgeous tooth for a weapon disc. So let's go ahead and also add a fillet on the inside of this, because like I said, fillets are your friends. Please, 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 please use them. And that trimmed away the whole thing. That was obviously not coincident with the rest of those. So that should be, yep, it's got the icon there. What? Why did it trim away the whole thing again? Okay, you know what? We're just gonna do this, and it's not. Okay. Why is it doing that? If it was coincident there and coincident there. Oh, I see. This is coincident with the inside disk, and this was coincident with kind of the outside where we had that. Okay. Ignore me. Alright, so we can trim that, trim this, and yeah, look at that. Okay. Now we go and add our fillet. 3mm for this is probably fine. And you can do a little bit more if you want it to kind of look better. It doesn't really matter too much. Okay, but this is kind of the basic geometry of our tooth here. So now we can kind of close that up into just the tooth that we want to extrude. Clip away everything we don't need. And extrude that back out again. So then, look at that, we are well on our way to a balanced asymmetrical disc weapon. And everything has nice, cool fillets, except this. This doesn't have a fillet, it doesn't really need that, because it's kind of an outside angle, so outside angles don't really need it. Unless you want to make it look cool, which also, you know, style points. So, anyway, just like with the drum, I'm going to go and hide this here because we don't need this anymore. Just like with the drum, we want to kind of find where the center of mass is sitting right now with this tooth. That way we can add in our counterweight. So, if you want to insert reference geometry, center of mass, go and drop that in there. So, look at that. That is where our center of mass is. Now, you'll notice that unlike the drum, this isn't lined up vertically with the center hole that we made here. Even though our tooth is sticking out up here, to create this tangent line here, there's kind of more material on this side than there is on this side, obviously. So that's why this center mass is kind of off to the side, and that's why it's just a little more annoying. So there's one extra step that I like to do that really helps. So what I want to do is I want to make just a sketch here, just kind of for reference, right? And we are going to go and look at our center mass, and then this is it's a little unscientific, but if you just zoom in as close as you can. Solidworks, at least to my immediate knowledge, doesn't like immediately let you snap to a center of mass. I think you might be able to like retroactively select a point and then make it coincident with center mass, but if you just kind of zoom in as close as you can, that will do the trick perfectly fine. You want to take it over to where you want your center to be, click there, and then extend that line out as far as you need. So now this line here is going to help us because this tells us exactly where our counterweight needs to be. It needs to be centered around this line right here. So from there we can kind of do what we were doing before, and we can start doing our counterweight guess and check. So let's take this out to like, I don't know, it's like 2.75. I don't know. Like I said, this is where the guess and check begins. We can go ahead and start making the geometry of a counterweight here. So I'm going to take that out to here from the center line. And then what we can do is we can, I guess we can mirror this. That's kind of the point of this line anyway. So you're going to draw a line in there. Probably didn't need to make it that big. We can go ahead and mirror this around this. Hit OK. Start trimming away the stuff we don't need. And here we have the geometry for our counterweight, or at least our first guess at one. And then this is a little bit less important of a filleting area because this isn't going to be like impacting anything or really like holding up to stresses that are loading this counterweight or anything. The counterweight's never really going to hit anything. So you don't really need to fillet this, I guess. But maybe just for looks, it looks nice if you do. That is not filleting right. I was trying to fillet these here. You know what? I'm just going to ignore that for right now. We will come back to that if you want to. That one you really don't have to. I'm going to extrude that up there. Okay. And then from there, now that we have our counterweight, we can check our center of mass, and look at that. It's already much, much closer. So you can see where we started here and where we ended up. So you can see it's still a little heavy on the tooth side. We want to move it a little bit more over to the counterweight side. And again, that's kind of where just guessing and checking comes in. So we're going to go back into this. We can kind of bring this out to here and just extend these up a bit. A thing to note that I've found is that it's easier to balance it out if you're adding more material kind of to the outside rather than extending it up towards the middle here. That definitely makes it a little easier versus trying to balance it out going closer to it. But just for demonstration purposes, we're going to do that anyway. Let's go ahead and exit the sketch here and recheck our center of mass. And look at that. We are very, very, very close. As I was saying, it's kind of getting a little difficult here. Just because of this geometry is a little difficult. But you know what? Actually, I have a better idea for demonstration purposes. Let's go ahead and just make this weird and wide. So let's see. So I'm about to do something intentionally. I'm going to throw off our line again. So this line here that we made to kind of reference where that center needs to be centered around, I'm going to throw that off a bit. That's probably not smart, but that is why the tri-bar here is a little bit more annoying. I feel like you have to kind of get into that geometry to really balance anything. So let's mirror this around this. Trim away the stuff that we don't need. All of this. All of this. I'll extend this out here. Trim that. Okay. So the thing is that this is going to be wrong here. This is going to throw off our center of mass a little bit. Oh, it kind of looks cool though. I like that actually. Alright, so there we are. You can see the center mass is off again. It's further away because I kind of took out a lot of the geometry there. But it works. So from here, what we need to do is we need to remake this center line here because it is going to be different now. So what we can do here is we can do another sketch on here. Make another one of those lines to reference. So I want to go back and I want to hit our center of mass by just kind of zooming in as close as possible. Another thing that I want to bring up just while I'm kind of zooming in here and doing stuff that you've already seen is that the tooth of your weapon will get damaged in the fight. Whether it's you hitting or getting hit, your weapon tooth will be damaged like 100%. So your center of mass is going to change and move around at a decent speed. Not like oh, it doesn't matter, you balance your disc because it's going to go unbalanced, but like more of there's a acceptable range of how balanced your disc can be, because at a certain point it just doesn't matter after the first hit. So what I'm doing here is I'm just adding an even amount on each side here. This is the first time I made a counterweight with goofy geometry like this, but I think it's very fun for demonstration. Oh, you know what? I realized that I didn't make a separate sketch for that reference line, so this is going to be part of it. Whatever. Select a face. I did select a face. What are you talking about? Selected a face right there. Oh, why is it selecting contour? No, select the face to, yeah. Is that doing that right? Nope. Okay, wait. I selected something else. Oh, well, first I have to select this. No, not you. I gotta select that region to extrude, I guess. And the surface is here. There we go. Sorry, I'm tired today. That is some goofy counterweighting, but you know what? Look at that. Look at how close that is. Look at that. Who would have thought? Not me. So kind of guess and check that again. You know what? This is already kind of balanced. I bet we could just offset this a little bit. Not bidirectionally, but I bet if we just went like... Yeah, you think we do like 3 millimeters and we just kind of like extended that out? Oh, I guess I need to add a little... Need to add the curve here to extend it. But yeah, you think if we like extended this out here... Let's see, where does that put us? Hey, look at that. Okay, so this is kind of what I'm talking about, where this is, to me anyway, this is close enough that it doesn't matter. And as an added bonus, never mind. But yeah, no, this is at the point where it's close enough that I feel comfortable using this disc now. Now, the methodology was a little weird there. I kind of wanted to demonstrate the different craziness you could do to make something like this balanced. But as long as it is balanced around the center, it really doesn't matter. You could add the goofiest geometry you could ever think of over here, as long as you add something of that basically same amount over here. So you can make like a whole like dragon over here, as long as you make like a shark over here, and you just keep guessing checking that center of mass and redesigning your dragons and sharks to basically balance out right there. So with that in mind, I think that's probably where I'm going to end this. I might go over beater bars at some point. Those are a little... I'm going to be honest, they're just annoying, and I kind of don't want to deal with them. So I might not. But hopefully that helps. Alright, bye.